So, welcome back to another bookish video from the Mouse Diva. I have something a little different today. I even have Mr. Mouse Diva with me. We're actually traveling. We're traveling from North Carolina and we're headed up to Rhode Island for the very first time. So what I want to do today, since we have time, you know, because it's like a really long drive, I want to discuss the measure.
Moving pictures. Hello there, moving pictures.
What's up, Dad?
I've been all around the world. Every city, every place. Always been a restless girl.
I'm actually not done reading this, but I wanted to kind of explain the book in a way to Mr. Mouse Diva, get his input. So there will be some spoilers just in case, but most people know basically the synopsis of this book and what this book is about. But it's
except for me.
But it's such a discussion. The topic of this book makes for great discussion. So, what the measure is about is...
What measure?
That's what you're getting ready to find out. The measure.
Oh, okay. That's the name of the book.
Yes.
I'm driving. It's hard. I can't pick up all this stuff.
One morning, everybody in the world wakes up to find a box at their doorstep. And if they're homeless, they're out camping, they find it right beside them when they wake up in the morning. Nobody knows where these boxes came from. Some people are worried and they don't open this box. The people that do open it find a string inside. Now, just to let you know, later, when...
Is this like a spooled string?
A string.
North.
Later, it's analyzed. They don't know what the material of this string is. The string cannot be destroyed. It can't be cut. The box cannot be damaged. Everybody starts freaking out. Where did this come from? Did aliens bring it? So,
I've always been threatened by strings.
Planes are grounded. People don't go to work. They're so concerned. But that's just short-lived. After a while, they realize this string represents your lifespan. So, some people still, once they realize that's what it is, it represents your lifespan. And first of all, only people 22 years and older get this box. Okay? They've checked on cameras, like front door cameras. And at some point, it's fuzzy, it blurs out, whatever. They can never see how this box is left. It's just all of a sudden there. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, when you're 22 years old, when you know you're going to wake up the next morning because it's your birthday and you're 22, why aren't you hiding in the bushes? If cameras don't work, why don't people stand out and say, okay, how do these boxes get here? But that's whatever.
You know, I think if you're sleeping in the bushes overnight, things are going to get fuzzy there too.
You're on a stakeout. You're trying to figure out how this box is getting here.
You know how those shows go. They always fall asleep in the middle of the night, in the middle of the stakeout. Boom, there it is in the morning.
So, after a while, they realize they can actually do these computerized statistics, and they've came to the conclusion if your string is about such and such long, you have less than 10 years to live. If it's not, it's more. If it's such and such long, you have less than a year to live. So people are going through, do we open our box? Of course, some people want to know when they're supposed to die. Other people don't. So, would you open your box? Once you knew that that represented your lifespan, would you open your box?
Am I supposed to talk now?
Yep.
No.
Okay, and then why wouldn't you open your box?
Because I think that is the essence of our existence, is you just don't know.
So this author, actually, I'm pretty sure that she wrote it during the pandemic, because I think it was published in 22.
I was wondering who would be that
Yeah.
bored to come up with this kind
No,
of
actually, it is very interesting when you think about what could happen, the domino effect of some of these people knowing and some of them not. You're going to get the obvious where people break up because it's like, so these they're called short stringers, the one that they don't have a long lifespan, they're called short stringers, and then you have the long stringers. So the long stringers, you know, they're feeling relieved, they're going out, they're doing stupid things because they know they're not going to die.
So
Okay,
how close, you know, you said like within a year,
Okay, but hold
less
on.
than 10 years, but you know,
So I'm not,
get it down to the day.
Yep, I'm not through with the book, but I got to the point where now they have narrowed it down to the month, and then they've narrowed it down to the day. Okay, but in the before that, people are breaking up. It's like, oh, I can't handle this. You could die any moment, and or I want children, and you're gonna live less than 10 years. Then you've got where people are not being chosen for adoption because they're like, oh, well, your string isn't long enough. Then you've got this guy that he's running for president, and he gets up there in one of the debates and he says, you know what? I think every single one of the presidential candidates should show their string. Let us know how long. Of course, this guy has a long string. Because why would you elect somebody that's going to die in office? Well, one of those presidential candidates are like, if that was the case, Abraham Lincoln, JFK, Roosevelt, just different like things, major things that these guys did that happened that they didn't live long or died in office, and then those great things they did wouldn't have happened if they weren't elected just because they had a short string. Then it goes into, okay, Japan is like, nope, everybody's got to they don't have a choice. The government is making them open their box, and they are forced to show their string, and then they're documenting it. So I'm sitting here thinking, you would run, if this really happened, you'd run into where life insurance companies would not give you life insurance because you have a short string. Like, what are thoughts that are running through your head about this thing that could happen if people knew how long? Like, in reality, if everybody knew.
My thoughts are my thoughts. I just don't think people should know.
But that's irrelevant. It doesn't matter that you think they should know or not know. So we're in this world. This has really happened in real life. Some people know, some people don't. But here are things that are happening because of this. What do you think are some things that could happen?
All sorts of stuff.
Like, what do you see happening?
A lot of what you said.
Well, that's because it's in the book. Other than the 22.
Then I'll try and look at it from the other side and say, it's like, okay, I'm going to retire because I know I only got 5 years left and whatnot. Or I'm going to quit saving, or I don't care who I hurt. And I think a lot of people would just interpret it as an opportunity and or license to be a jerk.
And so one of the things that's happening in the book is that at the very beginning, people are panicking. and they're like swarming hospitals. They're like, I have a short string, run every single test on me, find out do I have a disease, find out if I have a disease. So different points of view in the book, so different people that you're following. One of them is a doctor, and he does run into this one woman. He's talking to this woman in the waiting room, and her daughter has just been brought in. They found a liver. She needs a liver transplant. She's going to die without this liver transplant. But the girl has a long string. So the mom is like, this liver doesn't work, then it'll just be another liver, but I know she's going to make it, but she has a long string. So instead of like going through and being devastated and the stress of not knowing if this liver will work, if her daughter's going to live, she already knows her daughter's going to live.
But was it a good quality string or a bad quality string?
There's no quality strings.
Well, but there's different qualities of life.
Well, exactly. Going to the point where the people doing stupid things. Well, they might not die doing these stupid things, but they could be in a coma forever. They could be paralyzed. They could lose limbs. There's all these other things that could happen. Then they decide that, okay, short stringers, they're a threat to society, because some of these short stringers have went and shooting in the hospital, killing people in the hospital, because they have a short string, because they weren't seen, because they have no symptoms. The hospital had to crack down and say, well, if somebody isn't sick or whatever, then they can't be seen. Or, well, I don't want to tell that. That might be too much of a spoiler on one thing, because I don't want to spoil everything if you haven't read it. But then there's another example where we're following this one girl. Her brother is married, has a husband, and this sister, she has a short string, and the guys want a baby, so she becomes a surrogate. They use the brother's husband's sperm, and then they're hoping that, and they use her egg, and they're hoping that because they're, her brother and her, that the baby will resemble her brother because they're related. So then and she's like, well, I'm never gonna, I'm dying, and this is a great thing I can do for you. I'm gonna die soon. This is a great thing that I can do for y'all is have this baby for y'all. I'm really curious about how is it going to end? Like ultimately, here's the other thing. So it gets to the point where, okay, you have these two guys, they're coming out of basic training. Well, the one has always wanted to go into combat, make his family proud. His parents were like immigrants. The other one was basically forced into the military because every single man going back, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, they were all in combat. And it was almost like he was expected to do this. But he doesn't want to go to combat, he doesn't want to go to combat. So anyway, they have just decided that no short stringers can go into the front lines. They cannot go into combat. Any short stringers, military, have to do like desk jobs and stuff. This way they can send them out and they know they're not going to die in combat.
It's kind of like sending grumpy old men into combat instead of young guys. It's like what you got to watch out for, the grumpy old men that have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and just don't care that much anymore.
Short stringers can't be police chiefs. Short stringers can't work in the FBI. So these two guys, they just finally decide, okay, we're going to open up our boxes. Come to find out, the one that wants to be in the military into combat gets a short string. The other one gets a long string. They decide, hey, let's switch strings. because now in the military, they have forced everybody in the military to show their strings. And they said, okay, we're going to switch strings. So I'm curious to know how that's going to affect things, because you have the POV of people, but every now and then you have this this chapter, which might be a page or two, of like a narrator just kind of explaining what's going on in the world at the time. Any more thoughts of what you think could happen? No?
Not really.
Like, to me, this book, like, literally gets me, like, thinking how crazy. I mean, just think back to the pandemic. Even the crazy things that were happening in the pandemic. And then multiply that, and you get this.
My only thought is, the more she talks about it, the more irritated I get, because there's a lot of people with no common sense and lack of good judgment out there, and what better way to give them an excuse to be an idiot?
Oh, then you also get into, well, couples that have been like, yeah, okay, we're not going to open our boxes. And then all of a sudden, one day, one of them goes, well, I can't take it anymore, and opens up their box. And they open up their box, the other person's not around. And then they decide, oh, wait, I need to know what my significant other is. And then they open their box without permission or knowledge of the other person. How that goes awry too.
So don't people try to get rid of their boxes permanently?
Well, I told you at the beginning, they can't. They've tried to destroy them, and they can't destroy them. They've tried to cut the strings. They can't they can't destroy the strings. They can't destroy the box.
Can't you just go on a South Seas cruise and throw it overboard?
Don't know. Haven't got to that point in the book. A lot of people are just putting them in the back of their closets, under their beds.
Oh, that's secure.
Right.
That's good. Makes for good reading.
Yeah. So, and then it would be like, I'm curious, like how many 22-year-olds would open up their box? Because my first thought, so I'm like, heck yeah, I'm opening up mine. Because I need to know, I need to prepare. But then as I'm reading and I'm realizing other things that could happen, I'm like, you know what? I don't know that I would open my box. And then definitely it's like, what would make it, if you were 22 versus your age now, do you think you'd open your box at age 22? When you're more impulsive, you're not as wise as you are now. Would you open your box at 22 and not when you're an old dog?
I've always been this wise, so I, obviously no.
I actually forgot a very important part of the book, is they actually had support groups for short stringers. That were very helpful to some people, but yeah, they support groups, and that's all I'm going to say about that, because again, I don't want to spoil things for somebody that hasn't read the book yet.
What do they call the people who don't open their boxes?
They don't call them anything. It's only people that have opened their boxes. They're either short stringers or they're long stringers.
I find that unlikely. They would have a name for them.
Maybe they'll say something later in the book. I don't know. Haven't finished it yet. Needless to say, I'm going to do a reading wrap up when I actually finish this. But in the meantime, let me know, have you read it? What you thought about it? How it got you thinking? Or you didn't know about the book and now you're curious, you want to read the book? Or you're going to be like him, be like, no, it's just aggravated me. I don't want to read it at all. And what are your thoughts?